Let me tell you something nobody with a real estate license ever will. Your rent check is not a transaction. It's a leash. Every single month, you sign your name on a dotted line that might as well read, I agree to trade 40% of my waking life for the privilege of sleeping inside 4 walls I will never own. And every single month, the leash gets shorter, the walls get thinner, the landlord gets richer, and you get another year older inside a city that stopped caring about you the moment a hedge fund bought your apartment complex and turned it into a spreadsheet. Look around. Look at Portland. Look at Denver. Look at Austin. Look at Asheville. These were supposed to be the alternative places, the creative havens, the cities where you could be a painter, a musician, a freelancer, human being with a pulse and a dream. And what happened? The same thing that always happens. Capital showed up. Capital bought every Victorian house on every charming street. Capital bulldozed the dive bars, erected the luxury condos, slapped a Live Authentically banner on a building that cost $2,800 a month for a studio with no dishwasher. And you, the person who actually made that city interesting, got pushed to the periphery, then pushed out of the periphery. Well, I have answers, not theoretical answers, not move to Portugal answers, not just make more money answers. Real geographic pin on a map, plug into your GPS answers. 10 of them, all in the mountains, all in America. All places where the cost of living didn't just dip. It collapsed through the floor and landed in a canyon where nobody from Zillow has thought to look yet. These are the towns that got left behind by industry, by highways, by the algorithmic attention economy that only rewards places with good brunch spots and Instagram walls. And because they got left behind, they got cheap. Shockingly, almost suspiciously cheap. We're talking mortgage payments lower than your current phone bill. We're talking rent that wouldn't cover a parking spot in Brooklyn. We're talking about places where you can own land, grow food, breathe actual air, and wake up every single morning without the sickening dread of knowing that 50% of today's labor is already spoken for by someone who doesn't know your name. This is the glitch in the system. This is the cheat code that the algorithm doesn't want you to see, because if too many people find out, the developers come, the flippers come, the $7 oat milk latte comes, and it's over. So before we start, and I mean this, if you have ever looked at your bank account on the first of the month and felt your stomach drop, if you have ever sat in traffic wondering what the point of all this really is, if you have ever whispered to yourself that there has to be another way, then do me one small favor. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like button like it owes you back rent, because every single like, every single subscribe, every single comment tells the algorithm to show this video to one more person who is trapped in a city that is bleeding them dry. And that person might be your friend, your sibling, your coworker who cries in the bathroom on payday. Let's get this information out before the gatekeepers slam the door shut. Alright, let's disappear into the mountains. 10 towns, descending by population, starting at number 10. Alamosa County, Colorado. Population, approximately 16,000. Alamosa County sits in the San Luis Valley of southern Colorado, and it feels like someone took the entire state of Colorado, shook off all the trust funds and craft breweries, and let the sediment settle into one enormous wind-scoured basin ringed by 14,000-foot peaks. This is not Boulder. This is not the Colorado you see on bumper stickers. This is the Colorado that existed before the tech exodus, before the Zoom Town phenomenon, before every mid-level product manager from San Francisco decided they deserved a mountain view with their morning stand-up meeting. Alamosa County is flat in the middle and savage on the edges. The great sand dunes rise up like God dropped the Sahara into the Rockies just to mess with cartographers. The Sangre de Cristo Mountains loom to the east. The entire landscape looks like it was painted by someone having a spiritual experience they couldn't fully explain. The math of the fade, 2026 data. Median home prices in Alamosa County hover around $210,000 to $240,000, which sounds almost normal until you remember that the median home price in Colorado as a whole has blown past $540,000. Rentals, you can find 2-bedroom apartments for $750 to $950 a month in Colorado. That's not a typo, that's a portal to another economic dimension. Land parcels, raw, undeveloped, view-rich land, can still be grabbed in the broader San Luis Valley for $5,000 to $15,000 per acre, sometimes less if you're willing to go dry and off-grid. The no-income backdoor. The San Luis Valley has a long tradition of agricultural work exchanges, potato farms, barley operations, plus small ranches. Many of them will offer housing in exchange for seasonal labor. You chop, you haul, you irrigate, you get a roof and a view of the Sangre de Cristos that most people pay resort prices for. There are also caretaker arrangements for remote properties throughout the valley. Absentee landowners who need someone to maintain a cabin, watch a well, keep an eye on livestock, free rent, no lease, just a handshake and a willingness to live outside the conventional economy. Who is this for? The budget-conscious remote worker who wants Colorado scenery without Colorado prices. The aspiring homesteader who needs cheap land and a long growing season. The valley gets 350 days of sunshine. The person who looked at Denver's rental market laughed bitterly and started searching for the exit door. That's it. If you want mountain life but your bank account says flatland, Alamosa County is the crack in the wall. Silver City, New Mexico. Population, approximately 9,500. Silver City is what happens when a mining town refuses to become a ghost town and instead becomes an artist's colony with a chip on its shoulder. Nestled in the foothills of the Pinos Altos Range in southwestern New Mexico, this place has a main street lined with galleries, a handful of genuinely good restaurants, and a culture that attracts painters, potters, writers, and general misfits who needed a place to land softly after falling out of the mainstream economy. It's got the Gila National Forest at its back door, 3.3 million acres of wilderness, hot springs, cliff dwellings, and silence so thick you can feel your nervous system recalibrating in real time. The town itself has historic brick buildings, murals on crumbling walls, and a genuine sense of community that hasn't yet been co-opted by a marketing firm. Silver City is like Taos before Taos got expensive. It's like Sedona before Sedona became a vortex for overpriced crystal shops. It's the version of New Mexico that still belongs to the people who actually live there. The math of the fade, 2026 data. Median home prices in Silver City sit around $190,000 to $230,000. You can find older Adobe homes, real ones, with thick walls and character that a condo developer couldn't manufacture with $1 billion, for $130,000 to $180,000. Rent. A one-bedroom apartment goes for $550 to $750. A two-bedroom house for $800 to $1,000. These are numbers that let you breathe. These are numbers that let you work 20 hours a week instead of 60 and still have a life that feels like yours. One on the no-income back door. One at gallery sitting. Silver City's art scene is real, and many gallery owners need someone to mind the shop in exchange for a room above the gallery or a small casita on the property. There are also work exchanges at hot springs retreats near the Gila. Cleaning, hosting, maintenance, that come with free lodging and access to geothermal soaking pools. If you're a creative, you can barter your skills, murals, photography, web design, for rent in a town that actually values those things instead of treating them as hobbies. You should give up so you can get a real job. Who is this for? The artist who has been told their whole life that art doesn't pay. The freelancer who needs beauty and silence to do their best work. The burnt-out urbanite who dreams of hot springs and doesn't want to pay Sedona prices for the privilege. Silver City is for people who believe that living well is the best form of rebellion. Salida, Colorado. Population, approximately 6,000. Salida proper has started to get discovered, and with discovery comes the familiar disease of rising prices. But the outlying areas of Salida, the unincorporated stretches along the Arkansas River, the gravel roads that climb into the high country around Poncha Springs and Monarch, are still wild and still affordable. This is central Colorado at its most rugged and least pretentious. The collegiate peaks, Mount Princeton, Mount Harvard, Mount Yale, tower overhead like a university of stone that charges no tuition. The Arkansas River cuts through the valley, drawing kayakers and rafters who never quite leave. The vibe is Carhartt and coffee, not Patagonia and pour over. People here build things with their hands. They fix their own trucks. They know their neighbors. They don't need a curated community experience because community is just what happens when people live close to the earth and depend on each other. The math of the fade, 2026 data. In Salida proper, prices have crept up, but moved 10 to 20 minutes outside the town center, into the outlying areas, the county pockets, the places where the pavement turns to dirt, and you'll find cabins and small homes for $175,000 to $250,000. Raw land parcels for $20,000 to $50,000. Rental situations, often informal, often word of mouth. for $650 to $900 a month. These aren't listings you find on apartments.com. These are handwritten signs at the feed store. These are posts in the local Facebook group. The real deals in places like this exist off the digital grid, which is exactly why the algorithms haven't inflated them yet. The no-income backdoor. River guiding companies and outdoor outfitters in the Salida area regularly offer seasonal housing in exchange for work. Guide rafting trips from May to September, and you'll have a bunk, meals, and the best office view in America, all without paying a dime in rent. In the off-season, caretaking gigs for mountain cabins and ranch properties are abundant. There's also a growing work trade culture around small organic farms in the valley. Weed the garden, tend the goats, live for free on land that smells like sage and pine. Who is this for? The outdoor professional, the seasonal worker who doesn't want to be chained to a year-round lease, the person who defines wealth not by their paycheck, but by how many mornings they wake up next to a river. If your ideal commute involves a kayak, Salida's outskirts are calling. Bishop, California. Population, approximately 3,700. Bishop, California sits in the Owens Valley between the Sierra Nevada and the White Mountains, and it is, hear me clearly, one of the last affordable places in the entire state of California. The fringe areas around Bishop, the BLM land stretches, the scattered communities toward Big Pine, the ranching zones that bleed into the desert have an almost extraterrestrial quality. The light is different here. The sky is different. The eastern Sierra rises like a wall of granite and snow to the west, and the ancient bristlecone pines on the White Mountains to the east are the oldest living things on the planet. You are standing between geological forces that make your student loan debt feel cosmically irrelevant. Bishop's Core is a climbing town, bouldering in the Buttermilks, and sport climbing in the Owens River Gorge. And that climbing culture has created a community of people who live on almost nothing and are happier than anyone you've ever met in a corporate office. This is not the California of freeways and $4,000 studios. This is the California that California forgot, and that forgetting is your opportunity. The math of the fade, 2026 data. In Bishop proper, homes range from $300,000 to $400,000. Expensive by this list's standards, but practically free by California standards, where the state median has surpassed $780,000. The fringe areas are where the real math gets interesting. Mobile homes and small properties in the surrounding Inyo County zones can be found for $120,000 to $200,000. Rentals hover around $900 to $1,200, which sounds steep until you remember this is California and you're getting the most dramatic mountain scenery on the continent included in that price. Raw land on the eastern side toward the Nevada border drops to $3,000 to $10,000 per acre. The no-income backdoor. The climbing and outdoor recreation economy creates a unique barter system. Gear shops, guide services, and campground operations offer seasonal work-for-housing arrangements. The BLM land around Bishop allows dispersed camping for up to 14 days at a time, meaning you can legally live for free on public land in rotating 2-week cycles while you establish yourself. It's not glamorous. It's a van, a tent, a camp stove, and the most beautiful backyard in America. Many long-term Bishop residents started exactly this way and transitioned into caretaking, property management, or remote work once they found their footing. Who is this for? The climber, the van lifer who's ready to put down partial roots, the California native who refuses to leave the state but can no longer afford the coast, the person who needs sky more than they need a Whole Foods. Bishop's Fringe is the last affordable ledge on the California cliff. Ruidoso Downs, New Mexico. Population, approximately 2,600. Ruidoso Downs sits just below its more famous neighbor, Ruidoso, in the Sacramento Mountains of southern New Mexico, where Ruidoso has leaned into tourism. Ski slopes, casinos, vacation cabins, Ruidoso Downs has stayed stubbornly working class. This is a horse town. The Ruidoso Downs racetrack is the heartbeat of the community, and the culture revolves around quarter horses, rodeo, and the kind of quiet rural pride that doesn't need a marketing campaign. The Lincoln National Forest wraps around the area like a green blanket, and the air at 6,400 feet of elevation is thin and clean and tastes like freedom from everything you left behind. This is not a polished town. The storefronts are modest. The roads are practical. Nobody is trying to impress anyone. And that lack of pretense is precisely its value. Ruidoso Downs is a place where you can live honestly and cheaply while being a 15-minute drive from ski slopes, hiking trails, and mountain scenery that rivals anything in Colorado. at a fraction of the cost. The math of the fade. 2026 data. Median home prices in Ruidoso Downs hover around $150,000 to $195,000. Older manufactured homes on decent lots can be found for $80,000 to $120,000. Rent for a 2-bedroom ranges from $700 to $950. Compare that to nearby Ruidoso proper, where vacation-inflated prices push homes past $350,000. And you see the game. The tourism economy creates a price gradient, and Ruidoso Downs sits on the cheap side of that gradient like a financial secret hiding in plain sight. Who is this for? The equestrian. The person who's always been drawn to the Southwest but couldn't afford Santa Fe. The retiree on a fixed income who wants mountain air and low overhead. The couple who realized that their combined income in Phoenix still wasn't enough and started looking at the map for places where the math actually works. Ruidoso Downs is that place. Jellico, Tennessee. Population, approximately 2,200. Jellico sits right on the Kentucky-Tennessee border in the Cumberland Mountains, and it has the raw, unvarnished energy of a town that has been through economic hardship and come out the other side with its identity intact. This was coal country, then it was lumber country, then it was nothing country. The kind of place that national media only mentions in condescending think pieces about forgotten America. But here's what those think pieces never say. The people who stayed in Jellico stayed because they love it. They love the mountains, the fog-draped ridgelines of the Cumberlands, the rhododendron-choked hollows, the creeks that run clear enough to drink from. They love the slowness. They love the fact that nobody from New York or Los Angeles has shown up to revitalize their downtown with a craft cocktail bar. Jellico is Appalachia unfiltered. It is beautiful and rough and honest in a way that makes most American cities feel like elaborate stage sets. Interstate 75 runs right past it, giving you connectivity to Knoxville, an hour south, without any of Knoxville's rising costs. It is a place where the land remembers something the cities have forgotten, that life is not supposed to cost this much. The math of the fade. 2026 data. This is where the numbers start to get genuinely shocking. Median home prices in Jellico range from $65,000 to $110,000. You read that correctly. Homes, full homes, on land with roofs and walls and plumbing for the price of a mid-range SUV. Fixer-uppers drop below $50,000. Rent? $450 to $650 a month for a 2-bedroom. These aren't affordable prices. These are prices that break the entire framework of what most Americans believe housing is supposed to cost. This is the math that sets you free. The no-income back door, timber and firewood work exchanges. The Cumberland Mountains are dense with hardwood, and rural property owners need help clearing, splitting, and stacking firewood, especially heading into winter. The exchange is ancient and simple. You work the wood, you live on the land. Some churches and community organizations in the Jellico area also run informal housing assistance, a spare trailer, a back room, a cabin on someone's property, for people willing to contribute to the community through volunteering or odd jobs. The social safety net here isn't a government program, it's your neighbor. Haywood County, North Carolina. Population, approximately 1,600. Haywood County contains Waynesville, which has gotten pricier, but the deep rural zones of the county, the areas up in the hollers and along the ridgelines near the Great Smoky Mountains and the Blue Ridge Parkway are still startlingly affordable and achingly beautiful. This is the North Carolina mountains before Asheville devoured all the attention and all the rental income. This is laurel-covered hillsides, black bear sightings on your morning walk, wood smoke curling from stone chimneys, and the sound of a banjo drifting from somewhere you can't quite pinpoint. The rural zones of Haywood County feel like stepping into a world that the 21st century hasn't fully colonized yet. And the proximity to Asheville, about 30 miles east, means you can dip into city amenities, hospitals, grocery stores, the occasional concert, without paying Asheville's absurd housing costs. You get the mountains, you get the culture, you don't get the price tag. That's the cheat code, the math of the fade. 2026 data. In the rural zones, Jonathan Creek, Fines Creek, the upper reaches toward the Cataloochee Valley, you can find older homes and mountain cabins for $130,000 to $200,000. Small acreage parcels with existing structures go for $100,000 to $160,000. Rent in these areas, when available, runs $600 to $900, but it's often through private arrangements not listed online. Land alone, beautiful, forested, mountain land can still be had for $8,000 to $25,000 per acre depending on access and elevation. In a state where the Triangle and Charlotte are spiraling out of reach, these rural hollers are holding the line. Welch, West Virginia. Population, approximately 1,100. Welch is the county seat of McDowell County, and McDowell County is the place that every politician mentions when they need a backdrop for a poverty speech and then immediately forgets about until the next election cycle. But let me tell you what those politicians never say. Welch is beautiful. The Appalachian Mountains here fold in on themselves like green velvet curtains. The Tug Fork and Elkhorn Creek carve through valleys so lush and narrow that the sunlight comes in at angles that make everything look like a Renaissance painting commissioned by someone who had never heard of money. Welch is not for everyone. The infrastructure is limited. The nearest big city is far. But if you are the kind of person who equates freedom with low overhead and wild mountains, Welch is offering a deal that the rest of America forgot to cancel. The math of the fade. 2026 data. Homes in Welch can be purchased for $20,000 to $60,000. The national median home price is hovering near $420,000. In Welch, you can buy a home for the cost of a used sedan. Rent, where available, runs $350 to $550 a month. Property taxes are nearly negligible. This is the lowest cost of living in the eastern United States. Full stop. The no-income backdoor. Community-based work exchanges are the norm, not the exception in McDowell County. Churches, volunteer fire departments, and local nonprofits regularly provide housing assistance in exchange for community service. Everything from helping elderly residents with yard work to assisting with food pantry operations. There are also informal arrangements with property owners who have more houses than they know what to do with. They'll let you live in one for free if you keep it from falling apart. You're not renting. You're not buying. You're caretaking the bones of a town that needs people more than it needs money. Wallace, Idaho. Population, approximately 800. Wallace, Idaho is a former silver mining town tucked into a narrow canyon in the Bitterroot Mountains of the Idaho Panhandle, and it is one of the most visually stunning small towns in the American West. The entire downtown is on the National Register of Historic Places. Victorian-era brick buildings line the streets. The mountains press in from all sides like the walls of a cathedral made of evergreen and granite. Interstate 90 passes overhead on a viaduct, and the town exists below it like a secret someone forgot to keep. Wallace has a defiant, irreverent personality. It once famously declared itself the center of the universe, literally put up a manhole cover marking the spot as a protest against a freeway project. That energy tells you everything. This is a town that doesn't bow. It doesn't beg for tourists. It doesn't rebrand itself for Instagram. It just exists stubbornly and beautifully at the bottom of a canyon in northern Idaho, daring you to find it. The math of the fade, 2026 data. Homes in Wallace range from $130,000 to $230,000, which is remarkable for Idaho, a state where the Boise Metro has seen home prices nearly double in the past 5 years. Older homes with character, the kind with original hardwood floors and pressed tin ceilings, come up regularly in the $100,000 to $170,000 range. Rent runs $550 to $850 for a 1 or 2 bedroom. Land in the surrounding Shoshone County can be found for $15,000 to $40,000 per parcel. For a town this beautiful, these numbers are an anomaly that won't last forever. Campton, Kentucky. Population, approximately 400. Campton is the county seat of Wolfe County, Kentucky, and while the town itself has a population of roughly 400, the broader Pine Ridge area and surrounding communities bring the livable zone into focus. This is the Red River Gorge region, one of the most breathtaking geological formations in the eastern United States. Sandstone arches, cliff lines that stretch for miles, old-growth forests so dense the canopy blocks the sky, and rock climbing routes that draw athletes from around the world to a place that most Americans couldn't find on a map. The irony is almost painful. People fly to Thailand, to Spain, to Costa Rica to find natural beauty and affordable living. And here, 3 hours from Cincinnati, 2 hours from Lexington, in the foothills of the Daniel Boone National Forest, here is a landscape that rivals anything on Earth, and a cost of living that makes the developing world look expensive by comparison. The math of the fade. 2026 data. Median home prices in Wolfe County sit between $55,000 and $95,000. Cabins near the Red River Gorge. Real, livable cabins on wooded acreage. Come up for $60,000 to $120,000. Raw land? 2 to 5 acres of forested mountain land for $10,000 to $30,000. I've seen listings for $5,000. $5,000 for land in the mountains in America in 2026. Rent, where it exists, runs $350 to $600 a month. Some of the cheapest housing costs in the entire nation, set against some of the most dramatic scenery. The math doesn't just work here. The math liberates you here. Here's what I want to leave you with. Every single one of these towns exists right now, today, as you're watching this. The prices I quoted are real. The opportunities are real. The mountains are real, and they are not waiting for you. They don't care whether you show up or not. The arches in the Red River Gorge will stand for another 10,000 years, whether or not you ever sleep beneath them. The Sangre de Cristos will keep catching fire at sunset, whether or not you're there to see it. The Bitterroots will keep growing their silence, whether or not you ever learn to hear it. But you are waiting. You're waiting for permission. You're waiting for the right time. You're waiting for your lease to end, for your savings to grow, for some sign from the universe that it's okay to stop participating in a system that was never designed for your benefit. This is the sign. You don't need luxury. You need freedom. You don't need a skyline. You need a ridgeline. You don't need a landlord's approval. You need a piece of earth that no one can take from you. And these mountains, these beautiful, forgotten, impossibly cheap mountains, are offering that right now. No application required. Trade the commute for a trail. Trade the rent check for a deed. Trade the performance of success for the reality of peace. The math is on your side for the first time in your life. Don't waste it. Hit that bell. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's one rent increase away from breaking. Someone who's forgotten that another way exists. We'll see you in the next one. Now go find your mountain.